Good evening, everybody. Tonight's regular meeting of council, time being 7 o'clock, I'd like to call this meeting to order. 1.2, the first item on the agenda is the traditional territory acknowledgement, followed by a moment of silence. Council of the Township of Red Rock hereby acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of the Robinson Superior Treaty and that the land we gather on is home to the Red Rock Indian Band, the Anishinaabe, and the Métis people. Thank you. 1.3, administration advises that there are two additions to the agenda tonight that are being brought to the budget bylaw and the tax bylaw. Do any members of council wish to make amendments to the agenda? I see none. Can I have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda as amended? You're going to have to. Thank you. Smith and Eby. All in favor? Right. Okay. Motion is carried. 1.4. Are there any declarations of interest to disclose? I see none. Okay. 2.1, the first item on the agenda is a presentation from SPG, also known as the Sustainable Projects Group, on the GHG reduction pathway feasibility study. Welcome.
Hi there. Let me just share my screen. Can everyone see that okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this overview presentation for the GHG reduction pathways that we at Sustainable Projects Group, or SPG, completed for the Township of Red Rock. My name is Pia. I was the main point of contact for this project, and also on the call from SPG is Reem, the Toronto team lead, and Greg, the VP of Business Development. And it's just nice to meet everyone virtually. So with that, we can go over today's agenda. So the agenda is laid out here. We'll start with a quick overview of the submission package, the general methodology behind our analysis, and then a high look at some of the key findings for each deliverable found within the portfolio. And then we'll end with a quick Q&A portion. So this project was completed through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, through the Green Municipal Fund, and included several key deliverables: GHG pathway reports, BCAs, or building condition assessments, EV assessments, RET screen energy models, and an energy plan updates for the 6 buildings in Red Rock, Ontario. And completing this work not only meets FCM's submission requirements, but also makes the township eligible to apply for future capital funding from FCM to implement these recommended upgrades. And before we get into the key findings, we'll briefly walk through our general methodology for completing this work. The process for completing all deliverables began with an initial site visit where we cataloged and assessed each asset. And this included a review of the building envelope, interior finishes, mechanical and electrical systems, and site components. And then following that, we conducted our analysis, prepared draft reports for each deliverable, and then submitted them to the township for review. And then after receiving feedback and requested revisions from the township, we finalized these reports and are presenting the results here today. So with that process complete, we'll now move into the key findings. We'll begin with the GHG reduction pathways. So as part of the FCM, one key requirement was to develop 2 GHG reduction pathways focused on building-related emissions. So these pathways were not developed independently by Red Rock or by our team. These parameters were set out by the FCM guidelines as part of their standard methodologies. So pathway 1 targets a 50% reduction in 10 years and an 80% reduction in 20 years. Pathway 2, also known as the short-term deep retrofit, aims for an 80% reduction in just 5 years. So each pathway presents a series of retrofit measures with estimated costs and timelines, and their purpose is to reduce GHG emissions, provide preliminary costing on meeting government requirements, and of course, guide future decision-making. But most importantly, these are planning tools. They're not commitments made by the township. And the pathways focus on emissions from fuel consumption, which include electricity and natural gas in these buildings. Emission reductions were calculated using fuel savings and relevant emission factors, which include the projected year-by-year emission electricity emission values for Ontario, which are shown on this slide. So we'll show these sequences and their impacts in the following slides. Hopefully you can see this, but this is for the Marina Interpretive Center. So on the two charts on the left-hand side, you'll see the breakdown of the suggested energy measures. Pathway 1 at the top left-hand side recommends one measure in 2034, and Pathway 2 recommends 6 measures in a span of 5 years. The chart on the top right represents a comparison of each pathway, their respective electricity and gas savings, their GHG emission reduction, year zero cost, and of course the net present value. And then the graph on the bottom right depicts the greenhouse gas emissions trajectory over time for pathways 1 and 2 against the Ontario's projected grid decarbonization. Similarly, we'll be moving to the municipal office and library. Again, you'll see the two charts on the left. Pathway 1 involves 2 key measures over 20 years, resulting in an 83% reduction. And then Pathway 2 involves implementing 6 measures within 5 years to achieve an 81% reduction. And then on the bottom right, you'll see the, again, similar greenhouse gas emissions trajectory over time for both pathways 1 and 2. Next, we have the fire hall. Pathway 1 recommends electrifying unit heaters in 2030. And then Pathway 2 recommends 7 different measures in a span of 5 years. And you can see the breakdown there. And then the chart on the top right represents the comparison of each pathway. And again, the bottom right depicts the greenhouse gas trajectory over time for both pathways. Next, we have the recreation center. The Pathway 1 includes about 7 measures spread across 20 years, and then Pathway 2 includes 11 measures across a span of 5 years. And you can see the breakdown of each of the measures, a lot being electrification for the existing equipment. Moving forward, we have the water treatment plant. So in this case, each pathway was achievable by electrifying the gas-fired unit heaters. And it should be noted that the electricity emission factor is higher in 2029 than it is in 2044. Therefore, the same electricity consumption produced more GHGs in 2029 than in 2024 and 2044. And this is reflected in Pathway 2, having a lower emission reduction, GHGI, and GHG emission reduction in the top right chart, even though the same ECM was used with the same electricity and natural gas savings. And lastly, we have the water pollution control plant. Each pathway, again, was achieved by replacing the AHU with an RTU heat pump system. And like the water treatment plant, the electricity emission factor is higher in 2029 than it is in 2044, which is why it's producing different values for the GHG emission reduction percentage and GHGI. The second deliverable was the building condition assessments, or BCAs for short. BCAs include an inventory of building systems such as roofing, windows, finishes, and HVAC. And these assessments are useful for maintenance and capital planning. So for each asset of the building, we've assigned a condition rating as well as determined service lives, action years, and cost estimates for each asset. And we've also provided an example of the cost breakdown for the municipal office and library. And the chart on the left side summarizes the annual estimated capital expenditure over 5 years and 30 years. And all of this information is available in the individual reports. I'm just doing a high-level overview. So if you are looking for the specific graphs or data, you'll be able to find it there online. Moving on to the third deliverable, that is EV assessments. So these are assessments that evaluate the feasibility of installing electric vehicle charging infrastructure at each site. So the recommended EV charging units for each site is the Flow Core Plus Smart Level 2 chargers. And these units deliver up to 30 amps at 240 volts, providing a max output of 7.2 kilowatts. So this chart outlines the estimated number of EV chargers and associated costs for each building based on three key factors: the building's existing electrical capacity, the available space on the subpanels, and how close the chargers would be to those panels. So the costs are inclusive of the equipment, the associated B materials, labor, and permits. And then most sites are estimated to require roughly 3 chargers to support the volume of visitors and staff. However, the water treatment plant and water pollution control plant are expected to only need 1 charger since they typically only have 1 or 2 staff members on site daily. And then the images on the right indicate the recommended locations for installing EV charger stalls if the project moves forward. The fourth deliverable was red screen models, and these were reports developed using the red screen clean energy management software. As part of the FCM requirements, the red screen models serve as a benchmarking tool, simply providing a snapshot of the current energy performance for all 6 sites. So if you'd like more information on these, the PDF models will also be available online. And the fifth and final deliverable was updating the township's existing energy plan. And we've updated the township's energy plan, or the EDCM, with more current data and updated results taken from our analysis. So again, if you'd like to view more information, the energy plan will also be available online. And that concludes the bulk of this presentation. Thank you for going through that with me. We'd like to open the floor to any questions the council might have. We do have a couple minutes to go over them now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll open the floor to council for questions or comments. Yeah, so yeah, there's definitely a big push on for, emission reduction. Those are some pretty big costs. Can you just looking to transfer some of the older buildings over with those are huge costs. Do you have any idea of what kind of funding is going to be offered to complete these tasks?
Should the township go with the recommended measures, they can go through the funding supported on FCM. That would have to go through them, and they can support what funding would be provided.
Okay, any other questions or comments, council? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, can I have a mover and seconder for motion to accept the GHG reduction pathway feasibility study from Sustainable Projects Group, SPG? All. Mayor Robinson. Smith. All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, the open and closed session minutes from the last regular meeting, May 5th, are at item 3.1 of the agenda. Are there any errors or omissions to note in the open session minutes? Seeing none, I'm just scrolling down. Just a sec. Okay, I see none. Are there any errors or omissions to note in the closed session minutes? See none. Okay, may I have a mover and seconder for a motion to approve the open and closed session minutes on items 3.1 of the agenda? Eugene Smith. All in favor? Motion is carried. 3.2, open and closed session minutes from the last special meeting. 3.1 of the agenda. Completed that. Okay, I believe 4.1 correspondence. 3.2 of the agenda. All right. Open and closed session, 3.2 of the agenda. Are there any errors or omissions? See none? May I have a mover and seconder to open and close from May 15th? Mayor Robinson, Smith. All in favor? Okay, we're on 4.1 now. All right, I got it now. Okay, so we have no resolutions from other municipalities. Next item is 4.2. It's for discussion purposes regarding a sponsorship request from the Red Rock Indian Band for the traditional annual gathering. Do any members of council have any remarks on this item? Councilors Smith?
Just curious, I don't remember, what did we do last year? And that's all.
I believe it was 250 last year. Mayor Robinson?
Yeah, I'm in favor of donating 250. We did that last year, the last couple of years.
Okay. So may I have a mover and seconder to approve a donation of 250 to the Red Rock Indian Band for the traditional annual gathering? Robinson and Eby. All in favor? Motion is carried. All right, next item is 4.3 is for discussion purposes regarding a sponsorship request from Red Rock Library for their summer wellness program. Do any members of council have any remarks on this item? Councillor Smith?
I just think I think we're going along that normal 250 for everybody that deserves it, and I think they deserve it. So I would support it.
Okay. Can I have a motion to put 250 on the table, Smith? Eby? All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, 4.4 is information purposes regarding a statement on the Ontario budget from NOMA. Do any members of council have any remarks on this item? Pretty straightforward. It's been shared. Scroll down here a bit. There are a couple notes, but I can't get to it. Okay. Questions or remarks? Okay, 4.5 is information purposes regarding provincial budget priorities from AMO. Do any members of council have any remarks on this item? I see none. Okay. 5.1 are minutes from the Red Rock Public Library Board meeting on April 8th. Do any members of council have any remarks on this item? See none. Is there a mover or a seconder for a motion to receive the minutes? Evie. Robinson. All in favor? Okay, motion carried. Minutes are accepted. Okay, skip a spot here. Sorry. Okay, so next up is the first report, 6.1, from the Community Development Officer. Welcome, Ashley.
Good evening.
Yeah, we'll let you go through the report and then we'll table questions after.
Okay, sounds good.
Perfect.
So we're just cleaning up the final processes for our recreation center rehabilitation. There's 2 remaining pieces to be completed, the sound panels for the gymnasium and the door hardware for the building. There are a couple pieces that do have to be special ordered, so those components won't be completed until the end of summer, but we're anticipating completion by the time school returns. So that's our estimated timeframe right now. Final embankment work for bridge repair, that's coming up. Our community brochures have been produced and are currently being printed. Continuing work with asset management. So you've received the reports from SPG regarding our greenhouse gas reduction pathway. So that was a lengthy process. So we didn't provide you with all of the reports because there were about 1,000 pages worth of documents that were developed by SPG. So that would be a massive package. I will have hard copies at the office, and part of our funding requirements is to post them on our website. So they will be available for the public to review as well. Water treatment plant generator building, that project is completed. We have our ESA completion certificate, so that work is nice to see finished. So we just have the final invoices and we're good to go. Continue with candidate planning. We have some activities already finalized, and it's been nice to receive some interest from community members about volunteering for Canada Day. So we're looking all right there. I could always use some more. Paiute Mountain Run, we've already got about 10 registrants and a bit of money coming in to help pay for prizes and sponsorship agreements for either funds to support or the donations of prizes themselves. Similarly, always welcome volunteers. The family of the young family that had come up in a previous council meeting, they will be having a plaque made to be mounted on the log. And then in the future, now that we have our interpretation plan and branding guidelines, possibly if funding is available to redo the historical walking tour around town, we would be able to incorporate the log driver into the sign that is currently over by the viewing scopes. So there is the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program, which has a deadline of an application for June 26th. We did have our water tower inspection report done back in 2023, so that provided us with some preliminary costing. They gave us two options for some work within the water tower itself. One was to drain the tank for regular inspections and to be able to do touch-ups on the lining. The other was to completely remove the existing coating and recoat it. You're looking at about a $500,000 difference between those two options. So we are working with Aqua to address some of the compliance concerns and some other budgetary items for project management assistance. So they are definitely helping us with some more current budgeting items because things go up after 2 years. We have planned the community yard sale for Saturday, June 21st. So you can always, members of the community can reach out to me to register their yard sale, their residents. And we will be creating maps that have everybody's address located. So they will be, the posters around town will have the map, and then we'll also be giving maps to each of the locations that have registered. So if anybody doesn't have one, they'll be able to have a paper map and also post it on social media like was done a few years ago. The Sonora Sailing Regatta from Thunder Bay will be back on July 28th to 30th. So it is their 30th year of the Sailing Regatta, so it's a pretty big celebration for them. They are having their banquet at the Legion. It went really well last year, and they're happy to support a local organization. So far, they're looking at 20 to 25 people. When I spoke to someone on Thursday, that number had gone up a little bit. And so they are looking to have use of the shelter once again for their potluck and free use of the showers at the Interpretive Center as per previous years. They will be providing us with a final count later on. And Nancy and myself Nancy from the library and myself did a presentation to the Golden Club regarding the progress on the seniors community kitchen cooking classes, which was well received by the group. And the rest of it is pretty standard from previous reports. So those are kind of the highlights since my last report. Any questions?
Council, any questions? Councillor Eby?
Would it be helpful for those of us who want to volunteer and help on Canada Day? Is there any chance to get kind of a running listing of what's going on so we can see where there might be gaps that we can fill in?
Yes. So when people reach out to me to volunteer, I find out kind of what activities they're able to do. Some do have mobility issues. So they're maybe better suited for a judging position or taking registrations. So I work with them based on the activities that I already have or that I have lined up and those that are available based on volunteers that have already committed to certain activities.
I was thinking from the perspective of those of us who want to create events.
Okay.
To help, if there was a listing showing what there is,
Okay.
so we're not doubling what somebody else is already on.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so I've had a couple people reach out, hey, I'd love to organize an event, and then we work on one based of who's supplying what, if we have materials already that we would be able to use, and them hosting. So it's really kind of a conversation and a bit of brainstorming based off of what we have committed already, and then what they're able to do and where supplies. And because I am able to purchase some supplies based off of our funding and the sponsorships that come in. So, and it's, yeah, that's been going on. Oh, now we have a question.
Councillor Smith?
It's less a question, more of if you need a judge, I'll judge something.
Okay.
I'm judgy.
The cook-off this year, we've decided to do a cake-off. So it will be baking a cake. So previous years, we've had ribs and chili. I think there was burgers one year. Last year we had different like dips, and this year we're doing cake. So for any bakers out there, the details on the cake off will be coming in a couple weeks.
Hey, Councillor Smith, if you're wanting to carry some music gear, I'm sure we could put you to use. Councillor Eby?
Do you have a need for volunteers for the Sonora Regatta?
Not really. They're very self-sufficient. So they just kind of show up, have their potluck, socialize amongst themselves. They're very happy to interact with residents. So while they're here, it's really neat to see about 10, sometimes 10 to 15 sailboats in our marina. So they're more than happy to engage with community members. If anybody wants to come down there, if you're nice to them, some of them may let you on their boat and get a tour of their boats. So it's a fun experience for them.
Any further comments? Just with regard to Sonora, is there the docking fees or anything that
They pay the docking
they
fees.
pay the docking
Yep.
fees? Yeah, okay.
Yep, so they pay for the pump outs, they pay for fuel, they pay for the docking fees. The only thing they're looking for is the use of the shelter and free showers.
Great. Okay. Okay, well, here's where the band gets a plug. Beverage Club is playing in Canada today, I think. Is that the band name of the band? I heard they're not bad. Anyway.
You're the
Anyone
music
else?
coordinator.
Oh, yeah, but they're not bad. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? No? Okay. Is there a mover and seconder to accept the report from the Community Development Officer? Smith and Eby? Sounds like a folk band. All in favor? Okay. That's it for me tonight, folks. All right. All right. Thanks, Ashley.
The Sonora.
Yep, I got it right here. Yep, there it is right there. There's two of them. All right. Can I have a mover and seconder for council to approve waiving shower fees for the members of Superior Sailing Sonora during their layover in July? Robinson, Smith. All in favor? Perfect. All right, motion is carried. All right, thank you. All right. 6.2. Report on administrative activity. So Mark, we'll let you walk through the report and then we'll open the floor after.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. I guess if we, again, focused on the summary of activity, we'd highlight the fact that it's been a busy time getting the operating and capital budget together for council. So that took up a lot of this reporting period. The 2025 insurance renewal process. We meet with Westland tomorrow to finalize that process. We're looking at approximately a 7% increase from last year. Very, I guess, acceptable from the standards of insurance increases per year. Anytime they come in at a single digit, it's usually something that is quite acceptable. So we meet with them tomorrow to go through that final process, but that is where it looks like it stands now. The MECP process with the Red Rock landfill. So again, we're through the MECP, we're looking at capacity studies. We're told from and mandated from our last landfill inspection that this is the process that we need to start at. So the RFQ for that has been released with a due date of the 30th, so the end of this month. So we should have a little bit more information on that very shortly. I guess if we then highlight down to the direction, discussion, and updates, I did have a discussion with Rock Tech Lithium again earlier this week with the provincial election, with some changes with the budget being released just last week. Rock Tech is going to keep me informed, but they still are expecting to be able to present to council in June of 2025. So that is something we're still targeting. The annual conference for Roma, for AMO, August 17th to the 20th in Ottawa. There is a deadline for delegations this coming same day, the 30th of the month. So again, in tradition, I think we look at, I will be attending and at least follow-ups on, again, all of our infrastructure, our bridges, some of our new direction of council based around some of what we call the splash projects, for example, that we'll get into in the budget document, tennis court upgrade, things of that nature, parks, those kind of things. So with the direction of council, I could proceed with those and see how successful I am in gaining those discussions. Quad Council meeting is scheduled tentatively. I guess it is scheduled for July 3rd. We'll be reaching back out to all members for topics moving forward. What we will need from council is under the parameters of the Quad Council, it is the mayor and one member of council. Certainly doesn't always have to be the same member. So maybe at discussion following this report, we can determine who that second member of Red Rock Town Council will be for that meeting. And then the Recreation Center, just the plan of administration at this point is to close the Recreation Center at the end of May. So May 31st, 2025 will be the last official all day for the rec center. But what we have decided internally is to operate the rec center on a basis of appointment. So if somebody wanted to book the bowling alley, for example, we would make that happen. If anybody wants to book any other event in there, then certainly they can work through the office for that, and we will accommodate. So it is officially closing, but staying open for a la carte events. And really, that's the end of my report, unless there's any questions.
All right, council, questions or comments? All right, thanks, Mark. All right, is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the report today? All right, Mayor Robinson. Smith. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, 6.3 is for information purposes only, relating to an updated summary report on the 2025 budget. Council received an updated copy of the budget summary report this afternoon that will be posted on the township website tomorrow. So do members of council have any questions or remarks on this? Councillor Eby.
It was helpful to have the education session the other day, and I really appreciate the detail that's being shared with the community so that there is a fulsome accessibility for everybody. It's really nice to see, and it's a very good budget. Thank you for all the effort.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure, did we want to go through any of it, or is council okay with the document as presented? It's very detailed, it's self-explanatory. We're certainly here to answer any questions or go through any data if that's how council wants to approach the process, but we'll take the direction from you on this.
Yeah, no, I think the appetite would be to go through some of the highlights. This is a well put together budget. This is a very well put together document. So I think some of the highlights, just so people can see that there's a significant investment in this community. And this is a well thought out plan. So yeah, if you could just go through and do some of the highlights for the community when they're watching, or we can refer back to this as well.
Yeah, for sure. So if we look at the first page, so the operating budget summary and the proposed levy increase for the Township of Red Rock, which is proposed at 3.75% levy increase for 2025. I think this represents a very good levy increase, especially compared to other communities, not just in Northern Ontario, but certainly right across the province. It is operating only until in this portion. We will get to the capital budget at the end, but it goes through and it shows a grand total. So that revenue and expenses at a neutral budget of $3.428 million. You'll see that's rolled in there is your Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, and then all the revenues and expenses that go with the township. I think what you see now as we filter our way through a lot of the high projects that we've been working on, say for the last 4 years, I think you're seeing more of what looks like a normal budget for a municipality. So again, an operating levy increase based on 3.428 million of 3.75%. If you go to the next page, it gives you that operating budget summary and changes from the last 2 calendar years. You will see some of these changes highlighted based on the fact of again projects running through and the municipality and being completed, as well as the fact that the budget now, the operating budget and the capital budget, are running as separate documents. So the deferred revenue funding, such as OSIF, gas tax, NORDS, for example, are all flowing through the capital budget and not generally through operating, because not necessarily are they spent in the year that they're paid out. So if we go to the next graph, it'll be an addition to the budget, I guess, something that we've incorporated into this year's budget, and it breaks it down into a pie chart, and it projects what $1 of taxes gets you, for example, or based on $100. So if you look at this number, it breaks it down to the general government, fire department, transportation, and it breaks each one of those out. So it kind of gives you that where your money's being spent kind of a scenario. The next slide is total expenses per category. And again, we just kind of flip through the next 2 because they're summarized as basically as the rest of the document unfolds. So the total expenses to category, total expenses by department, they're shared there, but we'll go right through to the general government document, and what it'll show is the summary of those first 2, or the next bit of the documents will show that. So when you look at general government, you look at the the document. So the next page with the actual numbers, you'll see how the revenue and expenses flow through each department. So Reeve and Council, for example, clerk treasurer, the municipal building, and you see how that budget changes and moves from year to year. Some of the changes here that you see are based on how we've changed some of how we report salaries through our budget. So that's why you'll see that salary number increased here, but then you'll see it decreased where we've incorporated departments into the overall budget. The next page would be protection to persons and property. So this is your fire department and your police. Again, police being an uncontrolled cost, and fire being funded by the municipality. You will see where the budgets are down. A lot of this is due to savings in projected savings in training, in gear, turnout gear, etc., and materials and supplies within the fire department. Again, the police department is something that is a static charge. Building and planning bylaw, for example, you'll see those revenues increase, and that's simply from a lot of the development that's happening. When you look at the expenses for that, on the other side, they also go up. So it's kind of a revenue neutral change there. Transportation expenses, again, as you flip through these slides, these pages, there's the two documents, there's the graph, and then the data that goes with it. Again, an overall decrease in the budget, and again, this is public works, it's street light, it's subsidized roads, it's the shop area. So you'll see how some changes have significantly impacted us here. I like to say we're doing a lot more with a lot less in a lot of cases, and that's sometimes a challenge, but it also is a way to bring your budget and back into line and your levy to a respectable level. Environmental services, again, on the next slide, that's your garbage pickup, your landfill, those kind of services you'll see there. Again, the budget is pretty static or pretty unchanged relatively from year to year. It nets out at a bit higher in the end at 360,000. But again, you take in all increases that are contractual as well through this process. So by the time it all works out, it's relatively in line again. Health services, these are again budgets that run through the township, but certainly we have no control over. This is your district health unit as well as EMS. So you see the small increases each year that follow those budgets. Social and family services, again, is your district social services or DSAB. Again, they're always with a percentage increase. So you'll see that budget, and we manage those right through the budget. Recreation and culture. Again, this is your arena, your bowling alley, for example, your marina, those kind of services. And I think as you go through this budget, you see again it's up slightly, but a lot of that again is in changes. In operations, we've also looked at some additional time at the rec center this year. But all in all, I think again a budget that's right there and very close to the actuals from 2024. Planning and development. This has been a bit of a change in our budget cycle. This is where you see a lot of our planning and development has come right through the municipality. So it's looking a little bit different this year, but It generally still is the same. It's just flowing through where it should flow through in our opinion and in the opinion of our expertise help in a lot of these situations is it then flows through the general government. So that's why when you saw some increases in areas originally, you're seeing these massive decreases now. So again, moving forward, this budget will be uniform and you won't see these kind of changes. Public library again is a pretty static budget. There is the increases projected in here, but again, a pretty fair budget, a pretty fair ask for what the public library does for the community. So again, it follows pretty well the levy increase for the municipality, which is fair. And that's it for the operating. I'm not sure if we wanted to pause there, if there was any questions from council. Maybe it's a good time to just pause that and go through operating and then go into budget or into capital.
We'll open the floor for questions from council or comments with regards to operating. Mayor Robinson.
Just a comment on the pie chart on the how property taxes are spent for $100 per property tax. I think the community is going to appreciate that document because sometimes it's hard for us to explain to them the breakdown of it, but now that they can see it and if they have any questions, then we can refer to this. So I do appreciate that. The operating budget, I think it's working well. How you've presented it, I think is pretty clear, pretty straightforward. And again, I just appreciate the work that's been put into this.
Councillor Smith.
I just wanted to mirror what Mayor Robinson said. I found, the way it is presented, how clear and easy it is to be followed, especially somebody who's not familiar with the budget process or everything. The way it's broken out into the categories and giving us that chart as well as how those charts were created based on the numbers. I do really appreciate.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those where it's progressive. I mean, the cost of everything is going up, but you and your staff are managing everything so that we're still progressing. It's very well put together. So no further comments on the operating. We'll go over to the capital, Mark.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when we speak to that, I mean, credit to council as well, because I mean, in a quick study, I did see that we in Red Rock have, like I said, I could only find one levy increase in Northwestern Ontario. Some aren't complete yet. That was actually lower. So I think the consistency of our budgets year after year have paid off, and I think it's a credit to council as well. So thank you for supporting. If we move on to the capital budget, I think we'll start at the top here. So this kind of outlines, and we had a bit of these discussions on the direction, and we'll have those discussions internally and bring them back to staff based on planning and development moving forward. But if you look at our major projects and where we sit right now in 2025, what you will see on this capital budget at this moment is we're not looking to put anything through the municipal levy based on capital. We're looking to use current debentures, or we are using current debentures that are in place. There's funding based on projects. There's also reserve funding as well as CCBF, OSIF, and NORDS allocations. I think the highlight to the capital that translates into budget is this is my fourth budget within the Township of Red Rock, and I think it's progressively got to the point that I believe it was year 1 and 2. We were approaching council with the method of a balanced budget by borrowing from reserves, remembering that this budget 2025 capital and operating shows projected to balance our budget where we're actually putting into reserves. So we're being able to invest into our future, being able to invest into what is much needed capital improvements within the municipality. And outside of regular transfers, which we make based on interest, as well as some water and sewer transfers of approximately $5,000 to each department, we're projected to be between $50,000 and $50,000 into reserves this year. So again, that's a really good news story in my opinion. And so if you look at the ISIP Culture Recreation Center Rehabilitation Project, that's the one the CDO Ashley was speaking about earlier. She's managed that project and done it with a very sharp eye. It's on budget. There's no problems there. So the funding piece of the 201,000 and the debenture piece is the offset for that. Your NOHFC Rec Center roof project, again, that's another project out of Ashley's office. It's waiting to be approved, but by all indication, we've got word that this project will hopefully move forward very shortly through NOHFC. So that would be a municipal contribution from OSIF of $26,000. The Trout Creek Bridge rehabilitation, so kind of our third big project on the go, again, is NORD's funding, so that's 100% funded. So again, no levy cost there. If you move to protection and property, we did buy a new 2024 Chevy 2500, what we call a rescue unit for the fire department. That is $121,000 when it's all retrofitted. So that truck is still in queue to head down to the Greater Toronto area. Hopefully this month. It's behind a little bit, but that is fully covered. It was about a $65,000 purchase plus the retrofits for that. So that's all covered. The good news story from fire protection grants and community emergency preparedness grants is that $58,230 is money that's come into the municipality through our fire department based on grants. We've now spent that money. We've ordered what needs to be ordered. That's some turnout gear. I think the highlight to the community emergency preparedness grant is a large generator, a Generac generator that acts as a backup power system for our fire hall. So this is again another really good success story and money that, you know, if you weren't chasing it and finding it, you know, you just wouldn't get it. So it again adds to our fire department and the safety we can provide. General government, our furnace replacement, those are things that just sometimes you can't get away from. So we had to put a new furnace into the municipal complex a couple of months back. So that's captured through our reserve fund. Our new website and our electronic agenda, the app, that whole process, again, approved by council. We've put a number of $25,000 there as a budget, which we're confident will give us what we need there. Public Works, it is our biannual bridge inspection year. So again, that is again captured and shown through funding. I believe that's an OSIF fund. The 2024 Chevy 2500, again, through a reserve fund for Public Works, again, adding to our fleet and minimizing the cost of what I call bad money on poor and sometimes not successful repairs of older and aging equipment. Some items for Public Works to make it a better place, to work. Locate equipment, the shop office entrance door, some shelving that needs to be updated to meet standards. It's wood shelving. It needs to be updated. Some scaffold platforms and some other work around some of the rooms. The water, a couple of the other major projects we have on the go right now are a high lift pump replacement at the water plant. So we've got that projected at 150,000. Again, OSIF related. Our electrical remediation repair, that's our generator building. That was an ESA compliance. So that 65,000 represents the 2025 cost remaining. Project is completed now. So again, we're spending our allotted infrastructure money from the province from an OSIF or a CCBF fund on that matter. Electrical update, this has been done. This was a DEF sensor required at the new wastewater plant already, unfortunately, but it's something that needed to be done to bring the generator to where it needed to be without tripping. So some other projects that we're looking at the moment, we again have no plan of levy here, but we're unaware of the cost at this point. So we didn't leave it or take an estimated cost. We'll have a better guide on some of these by the end of this month. But again, the compliance study on the waste disposal site, that is one that we need to do. But we'll look at CCBF or OSIF funding for that as well. And then we're into some of the discussions with council based on some of the wish list and further discussions we need to have. Again, didn't project any numbers. We're hoping that these could filter through 2025, but at this point, they may be something that starts, maybe completes into a final year. Again, no projection of a levy increase based on any of these, but projects that we've been directed by council to start working on. So when you look at our user space upgrades, that's really focused on the senior center and some upgrades that we've been discussing in there based around appliances, fridge, stoves, quite possibly a dishwasher, just bringing some of that room into a better place. Playground, tennis court, we've heard from council that is a priority, so we'll be discussing that further internally and bringing some reports back to council, as well as a small scale RV development. So those, again, we didn't put a number into, but we wanted to list them as projects that are the focus of council and the direction of council. And we will bring those back to council as they unfold. And the last one was some new computers for the library. So some much needed computers, and that is a reserve fund purchase again. So I think what you see here is a capital budget that gets us some of our needs done, and it doesn't affect the levy. This will be something that is something that we have to continue to work on and be able to increase and be able to reestablish not just fleet but also infrastructure, and that's the goal. That's what we're working towards. So really, again, that's it. That's your operating and capital budgets for the township projected in a nutshell, and that is presented to you today at a 3.75% increase.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I'll open up questions for council. Hey, Councilor Eby.
Were there any themes that came up out of your public consultation that you allowed people to drop in and meet with you and the staff?
Yeah, there was a few. I mean, we had, I believe it was between, I think it was 8 individuals that showed up. We kind of targeted that down to maybe 5 that didn't just stop in to say, hey, you guys are doing a great job, or hi, I heard you were here today. I just wanted to come in and support, etc. But what we did here on a few things was just cost savings. We heard about our roads and sometimes the conditions of our sidewalks, our sweeping, those kind of things. Really and truly, that was mostly what we got out of there. I do have a summary document of it in front of me. I can go through that and see if there was any other highlights to that, but yeah, it was, I mean, again, the bridges, the condition of the bridges, the conditions of the sidewalks, the conditions of the roads into specific areas, dirt and weeds, for example, on the roads. Really, I think that's it. You know, there was really not a lot of other verbal comments that led directly to the budget. Like I said, it was more of a stop in and say hello, and to be honest, it was somewhat relieving to hear and to see people that stopped in just to say, you know, you guys are doing a really good job. So I think the process of engaging the community in that manner, sometimes as opposed to a budget or as to a survey that can come in, whether that's non-identifiable at times, I think was welcomed. And to be honest, it kind of refreshed you a bit as to the fact that people do think that sometimes you're doing a pretty good job in some aspects. So.
Very perfect. Any other questions or comments? No, again, just thank you so much for this. It's thinking about, you know, getting things now, and it's also planning for the future too, which I think is extremely important. And administration, I think you're doing a fantastic job, all of you, to make sure that the town is good for many, many years. So thank you very much. So 7.1 is the addition relating to the bylaw to many, hold on a second. Yes, it is. Do any members of council have any remarks about the bylaw? Can I have a mover and seconder to adopt bylaw 2025-1393? Adopt estimates for all sums required for 2025 to be passed. E.B. and Smith. All in favor? Carried. The next item is 7.2. It's the other addition to the agenda relating to the 2025 taxation bylaw. Do members of council have any remarks on the bylaw? May I have a mover and seconder for bylaw 2025-1394 to levy and collect taxes for 2025 to be passed. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have no new business. Unfinished business 9.1, restocking of Lake Superior. Mark, did you have any updates on that?
No, I don't. We just carried that over as directed. It's just to be carried over on the agenda.
Okay. Carry that over. Okay, 10 is closed session not required. Okay, so the next is the confirming bylaw 2025-1395 to confirm proceeding of this meeting. May I have a mover and seconder? Anthony. All in favor? Okay, motion is carried. Okay, so the next meeting of council will be held on Monday, June 2nd. As the time is now 8:03 and there's no further business to attend to, I as chair am pleased to declare this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.